This once said impossible roller coaster is now open, with speeds exceeding 155 miles per hour, a 2.6 mile layout, and a drop at 600 feet. It shatters every major record. To accomplish this, the coaster manufacturer Intamin had to completely redesign the train, wheels, track, and station to accommodate this design. The Exa-coaster. This is Falcons Flight at Six Flags Qiddiya. Falcons Flight starts off with boarding some of the largest coaster vehicles ever created. The legroom is premium, the seats slightly tilted more, and the lap bar restraints carbon fiber that lock firmly in place once checked. The 6-bay station is massive, and each train actually must remain here for about 4.5 minutes to cool down before dispatch. Temperature sensors on the wheels monitor the process, only giving the all clear once the time has passed and everything is within operating limits. Pretty cool. Its cooldown process is actually one of the main reasons for the large 2-bay station, and one that barely fit into the plot of land, causing the access road to be redirected and tunneled underneath. You dispatch. The ride starts off with a launched lift hill like that of Maverick and a sharp drop to the left. It's the first surprise of the ride for these huge vehicles to still pull off some of these maneuvers. They're still quick and whippy turns and transitions, and this mini hyper layout for the first part of the ride is actually pretty fun. The elements and airtime is as you would expect, and it's really the first time you can feel the windshields and those carbon aero wings really doing their job. The sense of speed is lower because of this design, but the forces, of course, are still felt. The odd rows have more wind since they're a bit more open and they have the seats mounted closer to the edge of the vehicle, but then the front of each car having a bit more leg room to enjoy during the ride and a calmer winded ride. After this first little hypercoaster, you stare at the large launch track headed up the hill, about to hit 100 miles per hour. It happens quick, you really reach this speed, and then the climb up maintains this speed for a really long duration before you're released into gravity again, and then barely cresting the mountain and into the summit section. This meandering moment builds anticipation while also tilting you over the edge with an amazing outer banked element that dangles you off to the side thanks to these cantilevered supports. This little moment probably is my favorite part of the ride so far. Just a nice little, hey, look down. A few bunny hops and then a long straight run towards the cliff hang. This nice intentional straight moment is appreciated. Instead of throwing in some unnecessary elements or hills here, the ride just gives you a moment to really absorb just how high you are, to let the anticipation settle in, and to get you to fully understand what's about to happen next. Take it all in and brake and hang. Like a dive machine, the wait is long and vertical. You can faintly hear the screams from the other rides in the park below, and it's this odd moment of zen like I've never felt before on a coaster. You're so far away from the park, but you won't be for long. Totally calm, and then the opposite. The release and speed picks up quickly, a thunderous roar inside the tunnel, and then quickly into the final launch. It's so interesting to be pulled downward faster than gravity. There's nothing like that on other rides. This launch and that sustained high speed that follows, it's the ride's defining moment. It's why you're here. You broke the record. The ride's a bit rough here, but it's a good roughness. You're going so fast that you want to feel it. And then the speed continues while heading up the largest hill ever in roller coaster history. It's nice to keep this speed for a bit, but then the trims hit hard. Probably the strongest trims that I've ever felt. It's a bit of a buzzkill as you expect the top of this hill to be a highlight of the ride. It gives you that breathing room here. You get airtime from the trims pushing you forward into the restraint as you then just tiptoe over the crest, easing out of negative G's a bit. It's still nice to take it all in, but you already took it all in at the top of the cliff. I really wish that this was the moment where the ride just really flew over this hill and gave you a constant negative G moment, the longest negative G moment in the world it would have been, plunging back down and rapidly building to that incredible pace again. Super high speed turns and a flat looking air hill come next, but actually this is the highlight of the ride for me. This is a very fun airtime hill. Taking these turns and floating through at such a high speed is really cool. And then it keeps up with the quick dive under the entrance of the park and then the large S turn into the final turnaround. You really hone in on the speed here through this whole moment from the top of the airtime hill all the way down under the entrance of the park, right next to the F1 track, and then this large S turn. The final few turns are drawn out but still thrilling, and that's the end. There's no dull moments. It's a ride that tells a story through its speed and how its elements are placed. As always, I break down the ride into 5 categories that I believe can create the perfect ride. The challenges that were faced to build something so impressive are impressive. The support structure to the trains, the wheels, the braking systems, the station operations, the high heat and the sand that they had to deal with. Everything had to be re-engineered to withstand these things that haven't really been encountered before. Intamin delivered record-breaking performance into this ride that many different age groups can still enjoy. And at the same time, it doesn't feel too over-engineered. I've said before how I don't particularly care for how the new Vekoma sit-down rides feel like. They just don't really have any character anymore. They kind of all feel the same. And I'm happy to say that Falcons Flight, this thing still has so much character and it is so special. I've never given a perfect score in a category, but this is the one time. A 10 out of 10 feels justified. It's just a beautiful piece of machinery. From my very first ride, I still noticed some moments where I kind of expected more out of it. And for one, that's the speed. The windshields really aren't my favorite. I think I'd prefer if you just had the goggles and not this full convertible car. And the other major one, the air hill, the 500-foot plus tall air hill. I think the placement and harshness of those trims at the top of the hill could have been placed in a different way to maybe give riders the perfect roller coaster element, like 10 seconds of steady airtime. And because of those things, overall, I think that Qiddiya or Formula Rosa really give me a bigger adrenaline rush. They felt scarier. Overall, there's no dull moments to this coaster. It tells a story in its own way as you traverse the layout. From the graceful, free feeling, and then the Falcon kind of waiting, perched up on the cliff ledge, surveying everything below, and then the dive and that violent release of speed. It's kind of like Cheetah Hunt, how these slow parts work so well together in whole with the ride, with its odd pacing that just works so well, but at a 10 times larger scale. The cliff and surroundings are naturally some of the most incredible theming that there is. And it will only grow to be more impressive with time as a city gets built up around the coaster and the park. It really is impressive. The support structure is nice to look at. It doesn't ruin the vibe of the park. It's perfectly placed. Even though it towers over everything, it's an element that doesn't detract from anything else inside. The ride is so fast that theming along the track itself isn't really needed, but some more near-miss moments really would help add to the sense of speed. The Falcons Flight queue kind of reminded me a lot of the blue, gray, and concrete inside the Velocicoaster queue. Something that's nice to walk through and see once, but once you're inside for hours with no windows, it is very sterile and it can get pretty miserable. There's nothing like this ride, and there may never be anything like it. It's amazing that the ride exists, and it's something that will leave many speechless by the end. Many people had to stay seated just a few seconds longer once the ride stopped, or just really understand what they rode, or they got out of the train and had to just stop and take a breather, rest on the handrail for a moment. And that's just really cool and something that doesn't happen on other coasters. It's a top 1% roller coaster in the world, of course. I hate to put it at my very number one spot, but this thing is just so breathtaking to see in person and to ride. It really has to be there. It is number one. It is just so good. Falcons Flight isn't just a record-breaking roller coaster. It doesn't feel like it's about excess for the sake of numbers. Yes, of course, that's what drove it to be built, but it feels purposeful and it's established a new reference point for what's possible in roller coaster design.